Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing if we should be buying more guns or fewer guns but more expensive high quality guns. Now the immediate problem that we're going to have when we're discussing more expensive high quality guns is that and even the idea of more guns is that people have different concepts of what expensive is or what lots of guns are or what high quality is. So for example, to you guys, this may look like a lot of guns, but to me, that's not a lot of guns. Okay, same thing when you're talking about quality. Okay, so when we're talking about quality, we're gonna start off as a standard, right? Like on AR-15s, we're gonna talk about mil spec AR-15s, right? And then with regards to pistols, we're gonna use the Glock Gen 3, in Glock 17 or Glock 19 Gen 3 as our standard, okay? Those are going to be our budget level guns. We're not going to go any lower than that. Okay, that's going to be our starting point, and then from there, do we want to basically upgrade, right, to a more to more expensive? Okay, so before we go further, let's talk about three of the qualities that we want in guns. Okay, we want reliability, right? The gun has to work. Okay, we want availability of parts. Okay, so when the gun does break, because if all machines break. Okay, and the funny thing with machines is, if you use them a lot, they break. If you don't use them, sometimes they also break just from sitting there and rust building up and parts not moving. So machines can break either way. If you even if you're using them or if you're not using them, they can break. So we're gonna need parts, okay? And the other thing is we need to have the knowledge to be able to fix those guns when they break. Again, and that's why I pretty much stick to AR-15s and Glock Gen 3s because they have all three of those qualities. Now, we might look at something, let's say, like an AK-47. Great gun. It's very reliable, right? So it qualifies for that first item over there as far as reliability. And they're very durable, right? So maybe they'll last 2 times or 3 times longer than an AR-15 before you have to break parts, and you will break parts on an AK-47. I know because I break parts. Let's just put things into perspective for a second. Okay. This is my personal shooting range. That's what the ground looks like, and it goes about 6 inches deep. Okay. All right. So now I don't only shoot here. I also travel around different ranges. A lot of time, on the days that you guys don't see me doing videos is because I'm at different locations, different ranges, training people, and it's not a place that's conducive to doing the videos for whatever reason. So I do lots of shooting, okay, or my guns do lots of shooting under my supervision. Um, so going back to the AK-47, I have broken AKs. Okay, now on the first time, the part that broke was the muzzle brake, the muzzle slant, not a big deal. But the second time, around somewhere around 10,000 rounds, I broke the recoil spring. Okay, not an expensive part, easy to get, but the fact remains, with a broken recoil spring, and the thing was like cut in half basically, the gun will not work. Okay, so it doesn't matter how long the barrel of the gun might last. Whatever critical part breaks first, I mean, that pretty much ends the gun's life as far as, okay, now it needs to be serviced. Okay, and on the day that it broke, I didn't have an extra recoil spring with me. So the gun was down. It was out. It was out of fight. Okay, so all guns break. Okay, now with the problem with AK-47s, if you want to take the gun apart, there's rivets in there. You have to grind out rivets, basically when you put it back together, you got to be hammering rivets back into place. If you want to set the barrel, you got to have like a special press. Most people have never gotten that deep into gunsmithing AK-47s. So they don't have the parts, they don't have the knowledge to do it. That includes me, right? And I pretty much live guns. Okay, I have many AKs, but I just never got that deep into it. The other problem with AKs is that not everything is just a drop-in. So like at one point I was considering getting a backup bolt, and I found out that the bolt has to be fitted to the AK. And I said, okay, let me just get a firing pin, right? And then I found out that not all firing pins will fit into all AK. So I said, you know what? At this point, at the point that it breaks, I'll see what's available. Okay, but that gives you guys a real life example of why the guns on this table, for the purpose of this video, are AR-15s and Glock Gen 3s. Okay, because they fit this criteria of reliability, availability of parts, and knowledge to fix the gun when it breaks. Okay? And even if you personally don't have the parts and the knowledge, there's enough parts and knowledge out there in circulation that down the road, in a shit hit the fan type of situation, there's a much better chance that you will find somebody to help you fix your gun if you stick to AR-15s and Glocks. Okay, so now, as far as more guns or higher quality guns or more expensive guns, let's consider a likely shit hit the fan type of situation. Basically, you don't want to be the only person in your house that's able to fight. Okay, you want to be able to arm every adult member in your family, and maybe even your kids, right? If they're old enough to, in a shit hit fan type of situation where if we lose this fight, we're all gonna die. Your kids, if they're old enough to, to reason and take instruction, if they're old enough to shoot a gun accurately, they better know how to shoot a gun, right? In a World War III type of situation. Okay? So it's not enough for you just to arm yourself. You have to be able to arm your entire family, and you also need to be able to arm your neighbors. Okay, your neighbors around you. For example, I know that one of my neighbors that I talk with, he's not like an avid shooter. He does have a couple of I think he's got like one or two Glock pistols, probably one. I don't quite remember, but the point is that he does know how to shoot. He doesn't shoot regularly. He has one pistol. A pistol in a shit hit the fan type of situation is not the best choice gun to have. Okay, so this is my neighbor. I want to be able to arm him. Right, this is somebody I trust. This is somebody I've known for a couple of years at this point. I can't tell him, hey, listen, you don't know what's coming down the road. Go buy some AR-15s, because I'm just not that close with him, right, where I can give him that type of advice. But I do want to be able to arm him and other people, because if I can arm the houses around me, that will help me protect my own house. Okay, so that's an important consideration, an important real life consideration as far as a real shit hit the fan type of situation. I want to be able to arm my neighbors. Now, I also want to have disposable guns, right? So in a situation, right, we're in a combat type of situation, whether it's you're being attacked and you need to retreat fast, or let's say you're going after food or something and you kind of have to do a hit and run, whatever the scenario is that you can envision, there's a good chance that you may not be able to bring out all of your equipment. Okay, so in a real shit hit the fan type of situation, there's the reality that some of the guns might get left behind, or they might be damaged. Okay, and not that necessarily damaged because they've been shot, but simply because, let's say, a truck door or something slams on the receiver or something and cracks it. Okay, or let's say it gets dropped out of the second story window or something, during some type of operation that, whatever you can imagine, the gun might get dropped. It might fall in such a way that, again, the receiver gets cracked, or whatever you can envision, right? So in a real World War III type of situation, the guns are going to break. Okay, so that's another thing to consider. Another reason why you would want to have lots of guns rather than invest all of your resources into one gun, right? Because here's the thing: I don't care if let's say you got a $3,000 AR-15. I mean, there's if that gets run over by a truck, right, that receiver is probably going to crack just as easy as the one that costs whatever $600, $700. Okay, and that's a real life situation. Guns might get run over by vehicles. Okay, now the other thing, decoy guns. Okay, so different types of possible shit hit the fan type of situations. Situation where you now have a dictatorship in charge. They're doing door-to-door searches and confiscations. Okay, um, basically, they may know that you have guns, right? Because the government has been keeping an illegal registry. They don't necessarily know how many guns you have, right? Because here's the thing: it is, because remember, you can still sell guns privately, right? It's still legal to sell guns privately, so that's kind of what gives us deniability. Um, so you can always say that you sold some of the guns, but a good way to get rid of them faster, get them out of your house, is to give them a decoy gun, right? Give them a gun, right? And then you got the rest hidden, or give them two guns, or whatever, right? Whatever you think that you need to give them to get rid of them. So the use of decoy guns is another reason why you would want to have more guns rather than a few very expensive type of guns. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit now about upgrades, right? If you do upgrade the gun, right, there's really two types of upgrades. One is to enhance your shooting ability. Okay, so that would be, let's say, putting a scope on it. Like this one over here has a magnification scope on it, like this scope and mount here. I mean, I got it on sale. It was like $400, but this can easily cost $600-700. Okay, but just having a red dot on it, that increases your ability. Okay, red dot. I've seen this proven many times over. Remember, I train people. I watch new shooters, brand new shooters, what they learn the fastest, right? And new shooters learn to shoot guns with red dots a lot faster, a lot more accurately. They like shooting the guns, so they learn quicker. Much better than with iron sights, okay? Because there was a time when I used to only train people with iron sights. The learning process was a lot slower, a lot more drawn out, and under stress, it is not likely that they would be able to use those iron sights as well. The red dot, single point of aim, you just as long as you have 4 points of contact, your two hands on the gun, your chest and your face. When you look in that glass, you're gonna find that dot. Okay, and even if you have it in some awkward position like this, you're gonna see the dot. Okay, so it definitely increases a shooting ability. Okay, so this is definitely something that I think is worthwhile investing in. A good red dot. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But the second type of upgrade is one that increases life expectancy. Okay, so here's the thing: like AR triggers. Okay, I think they're like rated for 5,000 rounds. Okay. I usually get mine up closer to 10,000 rounds, right? By 10,000 rounds, I'm usually having some type of a problem. It might be that the hammer pin breaks. Most likely the disconnector wears out. And when the disconnector starts wearing out and the spur, and the sears, I get one of two problems. It's either gonna lock up completely, so I'm pulling the trigger, nothing's happening, in which case I have to put the safety on and off, and then the gun will shoot, okay? Or it'll fire in binary mode, okay, or trinary mode. So you'll fire a couple of burst rounds, and then the gun will jam up, okay? So in either case, that's not reliable. So that's usually by 10,000 rounds, okay? So the other thing that will happen is by 10,000 rounds, I will have broken some part in the bolt. It's usually the extractor. It might be the firing pin. Okay, it might be the gas rings. Although I've worn out gas rings, but I never had an issue where the gun wasn't cycling because of the gas rings. Because the reason is because these economy guns, when they're sold over gassed. Okay, so that they sell them over gassed so that they'll work reliably, even when they're dirty, or if you're using dirty ammunition. So what happens is, because they're sold over gassed, as the gas rings wear out, it'll still work a little bit. Okay. So anyway, I've broken. The point is, by 10,000 rounds, I have broken some part of the bolt. It might actually be the bolt itself. Although I've never personally broken a bolt, it's usually the firing pins and extractors that I break, or the roll pins that holds the extractor in place that I've broken. So the point is that by 10,000 rounds, you're gonna have some part of the bolt break or some part of the trigger. And the nice thing about ARs, it's really easy to change those parts out. You want to have lots of those parts. Um, so if here's the thing, going back to this point over here, if I could buy a trigger, okay, that increased the life expectancy up to 20,000 rounds, that would be a worthwhile investment. I have not seen any available that offer that type of a guarantee. Same thing with the bolt. If they offered me a bolt, all right, that would increase the life expectancy up to 20,000 rounds, okay, um, that's something I would be interested in. Now, why do I say? Why am I saying 20,000 rounds? Because I know that the life expectancy of these barrels is 22,000 rounds. And the reason I know is because I wore one out. I wore one out. It was a Radical, replaced under warranty, free replacement. Radical firearms. That wore out at 22,000 rounds. The rifling was completely gone. When I looked down the barrel, it looked like a mirror in there. There's a video up that I posted on that. Another one was a 9mm carbine, AR carbine. That one, the barrel cracked, and I don't know. I don't think I ever had a squib load on that. There's a possibility that when they fitted the barrel at the factory originally, maybe they put a heavy wrench on that and stressed it. I don't know, but that was at about 15,000 rounds. But that's the reason why I'm saying is, if they can offer me parts that are going to match the life of the barrel, okay, that would be a worthwhile upgrade. Okay, now most of the parts upgrades that they offer, especially with triggers, is basically for a lighter, smoother trigger pull. Okay, and I do have, let's say, out of all the ARs that I got, I do have one that has like a 3.5-pound match grade trigger. I think I got two of them actually, which is good. And yes, it does make it easier for me to make consistent shots at longer distances. Okay, however, most combat style shooting is well inside of 200 yards. So in a shit hit the fan type of situation, that upgrade is not the thing that you're going to be most dependent on, right? In fact, I would rather have a, a trigger that will last the life of the gun, the last 22,000 rounds, 25,000 rounds. I would rather pay more money for that, and I don't care if it's a stiff, clunky trigger. You know, that is something that is more useful to me. And again, look at the ground over here that I showed you guys a few minutes ago. You know, I do high round counts. Okay, if you have a really expensive gun or even a cheap gun, and it spends most of the time just sitting in the safe, it doesn't matter what you got. Okay, that's the reality of it. It's only going to make a difference if you get out and shoot regularly. Okay, and here's the thing: unless you get out and you shoot regularly, you really don't even know what you have, because you might just have a very expensive gun that's just a really expensive paperweight. There's not, you know, so until you actually test it and shoot it regularly, and develop the skills to match it, it doesn't mean anything. Okay, so that's the important thing. You gotta do the training, right? And I'm not telling you guys to come train with me. I'm just saying go out, find people to train you. I find people, even though I'm a full-time instructor, right? I still go to other people to train me, simply because by me training with other people, I get different points of view, different ideas. Also, when I'm practicing by myself or training myself, like let's say I'm going through a course, I know what I want, what I plan in my head to do. That's different than somebody else giving me instructions, random instructions, and me having to perform those, perform that, based on that person's instructions. So, yeah, so I don't care if you're the best shooter in the world. Having somebody else give you instructions or directions is has a training value that you simply cannot do by yourself. I don't care how good you are. So it really helps to have that. Okay. So anyway, moving on. Let's talk a little bit more about the upgrades. Okay, so you buy an AR, you can get an economy one for, let's say, $500 to $600, and a number. I mean, now they're like this one over here. I think you can get, this is a Radical. You can get them for around $600. This is one that this is one that I use regularly to train people. The gun works really good, very reliable. As far as cleaning it, usually by 500 to 700 rounds, I clean it. So I clean every 500 to 700 rounds. It's not even a gun that I need to clean like every time I shoot the gun, right? Because that's also an important consideration, right? If you got a gun that the parts are fitted so tightly together to give you the tightest possible tolerances so that you can get the most possible accurate shots. Well, that's actually, in my opinion, that's not a very practical gun, right? If the gun needs to be cleaned that frequently in order for it to be usable, that's not a realistic shit to hit the fan type of situation. I want a gun that can go, 5, 6, 700 rounds without cleaning, right? And know that it's going to work. Okay, so again, different, again, there's a lot of opinion involved over here, right? Because people have different ideas of what expensive is, what a lot of guns is, what types of upgrades are worthwhile, which are not. And I'm coming at this from perspective of a guy that does lots of shooting, okay? And I just need the guns to be able to do a lot of shooting. So these guns here are able to do that. Same thing with these guns over here. I know they're way off to the side over here. These are basically all Glock Gen 3s, right? Now they might look like they got some funny, fancy coloring and stuff on that, but internally it's all stock parts, okay? It's all stock, no upgraded parts, none of that stuff. And they hold up pretty good, all right? They hold up to the thousands of rounds. Now, as far as, because especially with the Glocks, with the Glock Gen 3 parts, I would probably recommend, if you can get Glock OEM, I would definitely recommend that you get that. However, right now it's really hard to get Glock OEM, so what I'm finding with the Glock 17, Glock 19, Glock 26, which those guns have been around for a long time, those parts are pretty good, right? Simply because they've been making them for such a long time, they've had plenty of time to debug them, to copy them. Most of your Glock Gen 3 parts are pretty good. The Glock 43, okay, which I have right here, okay. I have found that because this is somewhat new, they're still kind of debugging it. So I had to put in like all the strikers that came with the parts kits. I broke through every single one within 1,000 rounds, pretty much. Okay, this one has the billet striker from AIM Surplus. That's been holding up pretty good. Okay, so again, with the newer versions, right? Because this one is basically, it's a Glock 43. It's a Gen 5. Because it hasn't been around so long, they haven't had as much time to debug it and test it. So, needless to say, this is not a Glock, a gun that I would want to take into a shit hit the fan type of situation. Okay, I would rather have one of the Gen 3s over there, one of the Glock 17s or the Glock 19s over there. So let's go back to types of upgrades that I think are worthwhile. I'm not a big fan of the match grade 3-pound triggers, although I do have a few. It's really cool. I can hit, I can get better groups at further distances. For a combat type of situation, you're going to be shooting inside of 200 yards most likely. And here's the thing, I don't want a trigger that's too light, right? I want, especially if I'm wearing like winter gloves, I want that 7-8 pound trigger pull, right? Where I can actually feel the trigger with thick gloves on. Okay, so I don't recommend. I mean, I personally am not a big fan of upgrading the triggers. I prefer mil spec. The thing that you do want to get is the optic. Okay, the optic is really what makes the gun. Provided of course that it has the reliability is there, and if it's a mil spec AR-15, I expect it will be there. But the next most important thing is the seeing part, because here's the thing: shooting is seeing, right? Shooting is a seeing thing, okay? And being able to find a reticle, get it on target, shoot the target. I mean, that's what shooting is all about. And I'm a big fan of these Holosun 510Cs. They got the 65 MOA circle with the dot. These things come in at about $300. Okay, and here's the thing: the way I got to this is I didn't start from the expensive end, right, and say, okay, expensive. Okay, I want to start with the most expensive thing out there, and now let me try and get a little bit. No, I started from the other end, right? Because remember, when I started shooting, everybody was just doing iron sights. So at first, I was like, all right, let me get a cheap dot, cheap red dot, try it out, see how I like it. Okay. And so I got like a $100 red dot, right? Actually, I think the very first one was like a $25 one. I got that, and here's the thing: I could immediately see that significant improvement, right? I could more quickly find the reticle, get on target, but more importantly, I put women on it, brand new shooters, never shot before, and I could see how much easier it was to train them when they had a dot. Okay, they could hit the target, they liked shooting, they wanted to train more, so that was immediately sold on it. You know, but here's the thing: the cheap ones, you know, they broke pretty quickly, and then I went up to the next level, $100 ones. I think those were Bushnells. The problem with them is they weren't bright enough, right? They would wash out like on a sunny day, shooting against the sun. They would wash out. So from the Bushnells, I moved up to the Adderballs, which were coming in at $150. They were bright. Now the problem I was having with them is I kept eating through the batteries. You know, I kept forgetting to turn them off. And then I found out about these Holosuns, which are solar powered with a battery backup, and I've never had a problem with these, right? I mean, I do. You're not going to get the battery life that they tell you. You're not going to get like 5 years out of these. If you're using them every day, like I do, you're not going to get 5 years out of them. But you're going to get good battery life out of them. And here's the thing: I forgot to bring it out. Okay, but remember that AR that I mentioned earlier that I shot out at 22,000 rounds. Well, the optic that was on that gun is now on a Lynx 12 shotgun, okay? And it's done like another, so I did the full 22,000 rounds. Well, actually, no, I think because I didn't have it on there from the beginning. So it did about, let's say, some 15,000 rounds on that AR-15, and that one was killed out. And then from there, because this is the barrel that replaced that one. So I ended up putting the 510C on this because the bigger window is way easier, especially if you're moving and shooting. That optic went on a Lynx 12 shotgun, and that did another 10,000 rounds over there, and it's still going. Okay, so these optics, these Holosun optics, they're good. I mean, they will outlast the gun. Okay, they're very good. Highly recommend them at the $300 that they come in. That's your sweet spot in value. Okay, solar powered battery backup. You know, like I said, right now it's sitting on a 12 gauge shotgun. It's done at least 10,000 rounds on that. So this is a good place to be. You know, and like I said, shooting is a seeing thing. So the seeing is a big part, especially with this. A lot of times I'm actually moving and shooting, boom, 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 boom. You know, I can do that with the big optic. Okay. On some of them, like this one over here, I have a smaller one. It is a little bit lighter. You know, the same thing, solar powered battery backup. That's worth the investment. It's worth that $300 to get those optics. Same thing with the pistols. All my pistols have the Holosun 507 ACSS. That ACSS makes it really easy to find that reticle when you know, a lot of people say, hey, if you come out, do perfect presentation, that will always be there. But life isn't always perfect presentation, right? You know, sometimes you gotta, you know, shoot these weird, unconventional positions. The big 250 MOA circle helps you find that chevron, that 10 MOA chevron in the center. So this is a worthwhile investment. Every pistol, every serious duty pistol should have an optic on it. You will shoot much better. You know, you guys see me shoot all the time over here. You know, at 20 yards, I almost never miss that target over there, right? And I'll even get out to like 50 yards, and I won't put every single one on the target, but you know, I'll get, you know, almost 50% hits at 50 yards on a man-sized target with the optics. Okay, optics make the gun. That is where you definitely want to put your money in. Holosun, definitely the way to go. You guys see how many Holosuns I got here, and there's just a tiny, small fraction of the ones I have. But that's where you want to put your money. So those are my thoughts on whether you want more guns versus expensive guns. More guns is better, okay? But you want to have more guns. At the minimum, you want them to be mil spec, okay? And then focus on upgrading the optic to one of these Holosuns, 2 MOA dot with a 65 MOA circle. That's gonna serve you a lot better than all the other fancy stuff that you can possibly put on the gun. You know, I see people put like, the ambidextrous safeties are not that expensive anyway. But I see people put all sorts of other gadgets on here. Um, you know, that may be more comfortable, you know, whatever. But the optic is the place where you want to invest your money. The other thing is the magnifiers. I didn't bring any out here, but being able to throw a magnifier, and they go for like the house ones are like $200. Putting a magnifier behind your optic, having the ability to take it on, pull it off. Actually, let me go get it now because that's worthwhile. That's worth talking about. All right, here we go. House on magnifier 3x. Really easy to get this on there, and this really quickly increases the capability of this gun. Turn it off to the side if you don't need it. Okay, come up, fast target acquisition, throw this over if you need to see at distance, bring it back over. And if you, and let's say it's nighttime or something, you don't need this at all. You just take this off altogether. Okay, now even at, let's say at distances like 200 yards, this can be a big convenience, because at 200 yards in the woods over here, you know, if something is hiding behind a tree, yeah, remember, I mean, you don't need a magnifier to see a man-sized target at 200 yards, right? But if you're trying to find something small, like a corner of somebody's head or a hand or a foot, right? If you're trying to identify something like that might be hiding, even at 100 yards, the magnifier is a big convenience. So this is definitely something worth investing in. And the nice thing about this is you don't need one of these on every gun, because this can go from gun to gun to gun. You do need an optic for every gun though, so that needs to be zeroed in. You do need the magnifier. So the magnifier is worth putting your money into. Other than that, you know, I say stick to mil spec or stick to Glock Gen 3 standard, and I think you'll be pretty well served with that. So drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. But these are my thoughts on that with regards to more guns versus fewer guns, more expensive. I think that more guns is gonna be more useful for the reasons I said over here mainly, right? You gotta supply your whole family, supply your neighbors. You need disposable guns. You need decoy guns. So I would start off with more guns, and then you can do some upgrades. Main thing is get the magnifier on there, get a sling, get some lights, you know, add those little extra features on them to make the guns more usable. So let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you all soon. Make sure you guys are following me on Odyssey. That's ODYSE. ODYSEE. That's an uncensored channel where I don't have to be bound by YouTube community standards. And my channel name over there is Pocono Tactical. Talk to you all soon.